Welcome to lesson 119, dividing by a decimal number. So we have practiced dividing decimal numbers by whole numbers. In this lesson, we're going to practice dividing decimal numbers by other decimal numbers. Okay, so we see two problems that are listed here. I have 0.12 divided by 3, and I have 0.12 divided by 0.3. So the problem on the left is where we took a decimal number divided by a whole number. We know how to do that. Here we have a decimal number divided by a decimal number, and that's what we're going to focus on today. When I have a decimal number divided by a decimal number, I have a new rule that comes into play. Okay, the new rule is that I'm going to do what's called an over, up. I have to look at this number on the outside, the divisor, and I have to say this has to be a whole number. I can't divide by part of something. I have to divide by whole somethings. So to make this a whole number, I'm going to move this decimal point over one spot, and it's going to become 6. So if I moved it over one spot in the divisor, I also have to move it over one spot in the dividend. So that's going to move my decimal point behind the 3. And then I know when I have a decimal number here, I have to bring my decimal point straight up. So this is the over, up rule. Over, up. Now that I have my decimal points figured out, I'm just going to do regular division. So I would say 6 goes into 2. How many times? It doesn't. 6 goes into 23. How many times? Well, let's see. It goes in there 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. Let's do our subtraction. 3 minus 8, can't do that. 13 minus 8 is 5. Bring down my 4. 6 goes into 54 how many times? It goes in 9 times. 9 times 6 is 54. I subtract, and I have 0. So I don't have to add any extra zeros to bring them down because I've already reached 0. So the answer is 3.9. Let's look at the next one here. 1.2 divided by 0.3. Again, I cannot divide by a decimal, so I have to use my over, up rule. So I'm going to go over. It brings my decimal point behind the 3. That's a whole number. That's what I wanted. If I did over here, I also have to do over here. That brings my decimal point behind the 2, which would bring my decimal point straight up. Over, up. Now I'm just going to divide like they're regular numbers. So 3 goes into 1. It doesn't. 3 goes into 12. It does. It goes in 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. I subtract and I have 0. I don't even have to add anything extra back here. So what is my answer? 4 point. Well, I know 4 with a decimal point behind it is just the whole number 4. So I don't have to write the decimal behind it. I can just write 4 as my answer. All right, last one. 2.28 divided by 1.2. Cannot divide by a decimal number, so I have to make it into a whole number by using the over, up rule. Okay, now that I've addressed my decimal point, I can go ahead and do the division. 12 goes into 2 how many times? It doesn't. 12 goes into 22 how many times? It goes in 1 time. 1 times 12 is 12. Subtract. 2 minus 2 is 0. 2 minus 1 is 1. Let's bring down the 8. 12 goes into 108 how many times? Well, I'm not sure on that one. Let's try 8 times. 12 times 8. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry a 1. 8 times 1 plus 1 is 9. That's pretty close. I'm going to try a 9 though and just see if that works. So 12 times 9. 2 times 9 is 18. Carry a 1. 9 times 1 plus 1 is 10. 108. That's exactly what I needed. So 9 is going to be my answer. 9 times 12 I know is 108. I subtract. I have no remainder. My answer is 1.9. Great. Have a great time working on lesson 119.